Jordan Calloway, ladies and gentlemen. Brother, it is good to be able to sit down and spend some time with you, man.
Oh, man.
I guess first of all, congratulations are in order, man. How does it feel, man, being the lead of your own show?
Wow. I mean, well, we still haven't gotten the green light yet, so we still working there. You know,
we speaking it out. We putting that out there into the universe,
brother. Absolutely. Man, I mean, it's a wild ride, to be honest. It's something that you dream of, and you just continue to work towards. You know, you put your head down, tuck the mirrors back, and you just continue. And I mean, it's really humbling more than anything. You know. I'm excited. I'm thrilled. I'm stoked. I love working with my crew, with my cast. So there's a lot of emotions, you know, and you also have to add in the fact, you know, that this is the final season for Black Lightning. So, you know, it's a bittersweet as well, you know.
Well, I first of all, I just want to get this on the record that really enjoyed the pilot. I'm definitely now going for it. This is the first time I can use green light in a good context for Black Lightning, because I was trying not to laugh. I'm like, you said green light and all this thing that's going on with it. But something I really loved something I really enjoyed with Painkiller is that as a new comic book show, this really gets to be truly the first anti-hero show specifically for the Arrowverse. So so I know you're a big comic book fan. Last time I met you was before the world shut down. It was Comic-Con 2018, and you immediately made it clear that you're a big comic book fan. So getting to bring that aspect to this franchise, can you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, you know, okay, so I think the fact that me being a comic book fan and me being, you know, a fan of the whole DC world too, especially growing up being a fan of Batman, you know, I mean, all of the Justice League, you know, Young Justice as well. For me, being able to have that perspective as a fan, and then being like thrown into the deep end of being able to portray a character, part of the DC universe. That's why I said before, it's like a dream come true. I feel like a big kid, you know, and it's so much fun. But then on top of that, it also gives me such a respect and, you know, a respect for Tony Isabella and as well as Trevor Eden, because it's like, this is their baby. This is what they've, you know, pretty much birthed into the world way back when. And now they get to see it on screen. So there is definitely a huge level of responsibility, not one that should be taken lightly, as well as the fact that you add on to it the responsibility as a Black man now, being able to be an example for not just Black kids, but I mean, kids all across the board. I mean, when we talk about Painkiller or when we talk about Khalil, both are synonymous. You can't have one without the other. And it's that duality that we see from the two, which can be applied to all of us when we look at ourselves, because there's dark and light for everyone. I mean, we see that with our past mistakes, but, you know, I'll save the rest for later. Let's keep going.
Well, yeah,
I can go on a tangent, boss. I can go on a tangent.
Hey, look, we here for that, fam. I think though, seeing the episode, Jordan, and I think the audience is going to be in for a treat when they get to see this episode. One of the things that immediately jumped out to me was the aesthetic of what we see with Painkiller, where we kind of dive into this almost Afro-futuristic vibe with the show. So like, what is that? What is that like? Like, how do you feel the audience is going to respond to what they get to see?
Well, I mean, like, okay, so first I'll say it from my perspective. When I was talking with Salim and he told me, because it was like an Afro-punk sort of Ghost in the Shell, because I'm also an anime nerd too, you know, Jay Vetter, our production designer, I saw some of the pictures that they had for creating just to be able to get into the world, because they did a lot of that based off of they built this whole world off of the green screens that we have on stages, right? So being able to get that visual in my head and being able to see that thing, I immediately jumped back to when I was a little kid sitting in my dad's lap, and immediately what comes to mind is Blade Runner, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking of like, man, you're looking at all of it. You're seeing the beautiful neon lights. You're getting the feel, the grunge, the griminess of the streets, but also, you know, that's the futuristic aspect of it. But then here you have Salim throwing his touch on it with the Afrocentric vibe as well. which I was so excited about to find, because I only saw the trailer. I haven't seen the whole episode yet, so I'm still waiting in suspense. But
spoiler alert, is great, dog. It's great.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Oh man, well that goes to the crew, that goes to the cast as well, man. It takes a team to do this thing. So I mean, honestly, just being a part of it. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Altered Carbons as well, so first and second season. So seeing Anthony Mackie, it's kind of like, ooh, I get to, do my own thing, step into my own type of vibe. And it's just being able to have that and to have those visuals for kids to be able to see, and for adults as well. It kind of elevates Painkiller as hopefully a possible show. It elevates that and takes it into its own world, its own arena outside of Black Lightning. However, also maintaining, which I'm sure you guys saw through the my characters, but also the characterizations that we see through Filky, Cousin Donald, Maya, Woman. What we also get into is that we still have elements that we saw in Black Lightning with the groundedness as well.
And I know I'm sure that you're always constantly asked, like, do you want to do a crossover? Who would you want to see with, and so on. Like, I'm sure. Look,
not at all.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. Not at
really?
all.
Come on.
Yeah. No, but something that when I watched the episode is that, again, like, we really haven't had a character like Khalil and Painkiller in this franchise. So because of how much he stands out, like, who do you think? What kind of dynamics do you think he would have with characters that you think he would either get along with or wouldn't get along with across this large Arrowverse?
And what's fun about it? What's fun about playing two different characters? You get to show two varieties of responses. So I mean, when you think about it, it's like, yeah, you got to think about Painkiller and Khalil, how they might react with either whoever they may be paired up with. Such as, I mean, one of my favorite characters that I also pulled from was Jason Todd. Huge Jason Todd fan, right? So, I mean, I told you I'm a nerd, but come on, bro.
Yeah, I love him too. Everyone
right, exactly. But I mean, I feel like, Painkiller, he's team Red Hood all the way. Come on now. So I mean, it's like, yes, let's do that. And Khalil, in his mind, he's like, I mean, I understand me coming from dealing with Tobias. I get what you're going, but Jason, come on. I mean, Bruce taught you, son. Like, you can't kill people, bro. Like, but at the same time, it's like he's a little bit more lenient than Bruce would be. I mean, we had who do I mean, I also want to link with Diggle as well.
Yes.
Keep in mind that is I was going to call it Christine, but Mrs. Pierce, that's her brother. So I mean, we got the whole Green Lantern Corps. But I'm just throwing that out there. We just throwing stuff out there to see what happens, see where it may fall. But
you speaking our language, man. Yeah. We're like, Andy and I were talking about that very team up before we got on.
Real? Oh yeah. But I mean, okay, so let's look into it from on a more personal level, right? You had Jefferson Pierce, who was the father figure towards Khalil, right? And then you also saw the influence of Tobias in Painkiller, right? So you see these two different influences. Now you add in John Diggle. I mean, come on now. I mean, you saw how he carried, how he was in Arrowverse or in Arrow. I mean, I love him. He was amazing. Yep. And I think to have a strong Black, father figure, and I mean, to have him have some sort of influence on Khalil, that'd be amazing.
A former soldier that could speak to, some of the trauma that Khalil's dealt with, that and PTSD.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the best, terms that you can put in there, because there is PTSD. There is trauma that Khalil is dealing with, but not just Khalil. There's also trauma that Painkiller's dealing with, and that, I think the Painkiller trauma is more so of manipulation, even more so for Painkiller than it is for Khalil. Because when you think about it, I mean, my mom, when he killed Nichelle, he didn't really have a choice. He was just following an order, you know, and in that, you know, that is severing a part of his humanity as well, that he didn't even have a say in. So, you know, Painkiller may even hold more of a grudge towards Odell than anybody else.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things that we see in this episode is not only how much Khalil has grown since the last time we saw him on Black Lightning, but just kind of that dynamic, that relationship between Khalil and Painkiller. And so, you know, as an actor, Jordan, like, what is that like? Like, what type of mind frame, you know, do you have to get into when you're going to do a scene where Khalil and Painkiller are kind of squaring off?
Right. I mean, that's honestly, it all has to do with the, you know, pre-production, the pre-work that you do, you know, obviously knowing your lines, but studying the scene, studying not just the scene, but also the character. Well, who is Khalil? Who is Painkiller? What is the tone that each of them have? Where does this come from? What is it that it's grounded and rooted in? So you also have to add to the mix that for Painkiller, he's a soldier, so he does have that military background as well. Which Khalil, you know, he's one that was groomed and he worked and earned for everything that he wanted. Because keep in mind, I think it was season 1 when he was talking with Jennifer with China in the gym, when he explains to her and he breaks it down to her, he simply putting like, what are you doing? Like, you can't have both worlds, you know? This is a kid that saw things ahead of his time. This is a kid that put himself out there and strive for the best. He was a track athlete. He was #1. He was following in the footsteps of Mr. Pierce, who he idolized. He's intelligent. He's smart. He's going to be vocal. He's going to be vocal about different things that he feels are right, the injustices, you know, the wrongs that are done. So he's not one that shies away. So he's also not going to be a pushover when it came to Painkiller, right? So, I mean, going over the course of these 4 seasons, you know, it's been a beautiful blend of being able to find and discover the ins and outs, the identities of these two young men, you know, and that's kind of what I believe Salim, Charles, and myself, what we really want to do and showcase, especially for young men that are Black, because we want them to get to a place where it's like, it's healthy to look at yourself in the mirror and to see not just your successes, but your faults, and to learn from those things as well. And, you know, I think one of the things that is synonymous with Painkiller and Khalil is the very thin line of falling into depression. And that's part of, you know, the trauma that caused it, because there's that isolation. And in that, and kind of you saw this with season 3, where he was isolated a little bit. I mean, he was around the ASA and everything, but himself, you saw that he would be in his own cubicle, isolated, you know, and that's something that you have to be able to pull yourself out of, and with the help of others to pull yourself out of. And the reason why I say that is because I think it's extremely important, especially for the youth, when they watch the show, when they see the journey between these two far spectrum, different individuals on each of their own spectrum, come together in order to pull themselves out of that isolation as well. So that's part of what the journey is going to be for Khalil and Painkiller.
Well, speaking on that, because we get to see your team in this episode, we see his own Painemobile. I'm coining it the Painemobile.
Yeah, the Painemobile.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
you said it first.
I dig that. I dig the Painemobile, so I'm going with it. So like,
I always wanted the Batmobile, so you know I'm take the Painemobile, baby. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm here for it. So can you talk about like getting to kind of now flesh out his own world, so to speak, with these characters and kind of, you know, in this setting?
Man, well, first, I think, you know, between the big 3, here we have Filky and Cousin Donald. I think with them, it's what we're seeing is a brotherhood. which I think is absolutely beautiful. We get to see, I have two older brothers as well. So, I was able to find different things that would remind me of my two brothers, and then also apply that to the two of them. Because my reaction and my response, or when I'll listen to either of my two brothers, I would then apply that to Filky and to Cousin Donald, because I'm going to hear or I'm going to receive something different from one or the other, and that comes with that level. It comes with that perspective that you have of each individual. So that being said, it's the brotherhood that's grown out of the three of them, each of them seeing one another as human, and in that, I mean, with their own faults, but also seeing those different faults and seeing how each one has gotten over whatever mountain it was that was in their life, whatever issue it was that they were going through. And we talk about that in the episode. And I think what's beautiful about it is by the three of us allowing ourselves to put that veil down and just be honest with each other and know each other's faults and failures and where we have come from, that's where the trust gets in. That's where it's built, and it's one of the foundations, because you have Filky with their issues that Khalil has his reservations toward him with, as well as you have Cousin Donald, who, with his military past and his understanding of what PTSD is, like you were saying, it's one where it's like, oh, okay, we're relatable on the same, we're on the same level. We're here, and I can come to you, with that. And when you apply that to, your daily life, we all have people that are like that,
And I think that's one of the things that I love about, Black Lightning and some of these other shows, Jordan, is that we can talk about these issues filtered through the lens of a superhero show. And so, you mentioned earlier something about Black masculinity. And I would say, like, one of the things that I've loved about Black Lightning is, whether it's you or Cress or Will Catlett, like the different versions of Black masculinity that this show has allowed us to see. I think, like, that's something rare, not only in superhero TV, but in TV in general. The fact that we're getting different views, different glimpses of the Black experience through these stories. And so, is that something, whether it's talking about Black masculinity or trauma and PTSD or some other real world issues, is that something that and I'm going to say when Painkiller gets picked up, is that something that you'd love to see continue on in that show?
Oh, absolutely. Because, I mean, you can't, I think the thing about the character Khalil and Painkiller is, like I said, they're on two different spectrums. And I only say that because, one will have a more instant reaction, whereas the other one he'll be more cognitive and he'll think about it. And we see that. So they'll take different roads. That being the case, that's what different audience, Black men that are watching this, Black young men, they're seeing themselves in these different characters. So for me, as the tool being used to help portray that, I have to make sure that I'm actually locked in. I have to make sure that I'm not cheating either one of them, because, like I said this in a interview before, it's easy to say Painkiller is dark and Khalil's light. It's easy to look at that from the surface, but anyone that has gone through life, anyone that has gone through their valleys as well as their peaks, they can understand and have an understanding of, okay, so I see and I'm understanding why you got to this point. Now, how do we move on from that? How do we progress? How do we not just stay here, but how do we progress? And that's why I think, it's important for Khalil and for Painkiller to work together, because they're going to learn stuff about each other as well as themselves, because they are still one, and they're just two different parts of the same piece. it's fun, man. It's really a beautiful blend and fun little craft to just work on and to just dive into, because you can look at, you know, different examples throughout history, or different you can look at different individuals and see their walks of life. And while you may not understand it, if you just watch though, and if you just shut up and just sit back and like, okay, let me see. All right, I might not understand. I might not totally get where you're coming from. But if you watch and if you ask the right questions, and if you just, instead of jumping to a conclusion, just listen and hear somebody's story, then that gives you understanding and perspective. And then with that comes compassion. And I think that's one of the things that's heavily lacked, you know, especially in today's age, because what we'll see is compassion on both individuals for one another.
Yeah, I think, and Andy, you can hop in here in a second, but I just had to get it out because we, you know, just looking back at the episode, there's a scene where, and I'm not going to get into the details, but basically where Painkiller says, I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
And there's layers to this character that we hadn't seen to this point.
Yeah.
Where, and it's like you said, that compassion, that empathy that you now feel for Painkiller is something I don't think the audience is going to be ready for.
Man, you know, and hearing you say that just, it makes me, I appreciate that, because that means I executed. You know?
Oh, you definitely executed. Definitely.
Good. You know, I mean, like, oh, go ahead, Andy.
No, sorry. Continue, go on.
No, I was just also going to say, you know, and that also is because of the writing staff, because it's, you know, it's not just one person that you see on the screen. It's also the writing that is behind the camera that has done the whole character development, and they know what they want to do or where they want to see. They got their fingers on the pulse of the show. So I just had to give that shout, you know, and that's Salim, you know, helping to. And he's very, very, actually, he's been very, sorry, I'm blanking on the word, but in the creative sense, he's been very welcoming to discussion and to, you know, asking and just stretching and seeing, you know, what things that I may have to contribute to the characters, you know, and it's nice. It's nice having that, because I have lived a fortunate life, you know, where I have had my two parents, and I've been exposed to other things as well, you know, that I've seen that have ravaged in the Black community as well, you know, but I know friends and other family members that have had it far worse, you know, so doing that research, asking them, and also learning, you know, and taking that, when you ground it into reality, then you begin to have a reverence for it, you know.
Right, well, last question.
We have to cut it short. This is fun.
I say we was rolling. Hey, you can always come back, brother.
Hey, bro. Okay, cool.
When we talk about Tobias, he's in Freeland, and Khalil Painkiller at this point is in Akashic Valley. So I think something that the fans out there would want to know, the viewers, will we see Khalil come back to Freeland? Will we see Khalil confront Tobias? And maybe more importantly to some of those fans out there, will we get that Khalil Jennifer reunion? Because you know that's what they want, Jordan.
Yeah.
Man, hey man, you know, shoot, that's what Khalil wants too, man. You know, I mean, come on now. I mean, you can't. Obviously we want that, and obviously, you know, his home is Freeland. Let's not forget. But there's also this thing called that kill order that he still has programmed. So this is the tragedy of Khalil's situation. You know, it's like to want to be with the person that you love, but in order to protect them, you have to remain away. You have to have your distance, you know? I mean, it really is the tragedy of Khalil. It really is the sadness of what it is, you know, because I mean, for one, I mean, Jen, she broke up with him because she even realized like she couldn't have it. She can't have the best of both worlds. And that's what, you know, these two young kids, they realize is that, you know, hey, life's not fair and you have to make the tough decisions. So what will you do for love? I think that, you know, I've always referred to Jennifer as being Khalil's North Star. And I think it will always remain true. So will he come back to Freeland? Well, the question is, what's going to happen with the kill order? And that kill order is directly linked with Painkiller. So you see the all of the drama and the minutia that's in there, where it's like, but that's what makes for good drama.
But we're very excited for fans to see the episode on Monday, and we're hoping that we see at least one more time on Black Lightning before it's over. So
I'm sure you will. Yeah. I'm sure you will. You know, I mean, I can definitely say you will see me on throughout the rest of the season. So I can say that. That's what I can say.
Okay. Thank you, Jordan, so much, and we're gonna hope that we hear sooner rather than later that series. And we see you in Diggle and everything, so that you get everything that we know that there's the potential for. So
give it to the fans, man. I'm like I said, I'm humbled by it. I love it. I'm so grateful for the fact, especially after the whole pandemic, to just have the opportunity to provide work for the crew that I've called my family. And, you know, and it's just to be able to offer that. It's humbling. It really is humbling. But thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, brother. We appreciate you. Wish you nothing but the best. Again, the floor is open anytime you want to come through. You're not so bad for a Dodger fan, brother.
Oh,
Lord.
Oh, so, okay. And you know,
I'm a Braves fan. I'm a Braves fan, brother. I'm a Braves fan.
You're not gonna open that Pandora box and think you're gonna get away for it. Hold up. Excuse me as I take a step. So who are you repping?
I'm a Braves fan all day, man. Win or lose, I got to ride with my team.
Okay, that's fine. I like the Braves, and y'all gave us a run for our money, man, for real. But you blew a 3-0 lead.
Yeah, man. That's the story of my life with Atlanta sports.
My brother's he's a Falcons fan, so
yeah, the struggle is real.
You'll find it, you know.
Someday. It's always next year. Next year's gonna be the year.
There you go. Maybe not. But guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, man. You too.